Right, let's begin our conversation, and we have a guest in the studio, Dr. Chijoke Ikechukwu, a financial and investment expert. Thank you very much, Dr. Ikechukwu, for joining us.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure.
All right, looking at tax reform implementation 1 year after, of course, the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform is working on its recommendations. If you have to give your assessment, if we're looking at building a resilient and efficient tax administration system for Nigeria, what would it be?
You know, for many years, the ease of doing business identified multiple taxation as a major bane in the growth of our country. And you see that every year when certain conferences or meetings are held, that particular discussion will continue to hold. Within the week, this week that ended, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria had their annual conference. I was also a speaker there on this matter and many other issues that came up. You see that this came at a time when we would just want to rev up revenue, yet ease of doing business must exist, and people will have to do business in Nigeria without having to sweat so much. We have our tax to GDP ratio at 10.8%, which, to my opinion, is not good enough for a country like ours with our size of GDP. You know, so what we have to do is just to encourage businesses so that doing business in Nigeria will not just be that which people just regret. So the efforts made by government right now in setting up this committee is it's just a welcome development, because people stop doing business in Nigeria just because of the kind of taxes they receive. Now, in implementing it, because all the time we talk about multiple taxation, people usually look at the federal taxes. But the problems actually come from the kind of taxes that come from municipal area councils or local government areas or states. You know, in that conference I mentioned well over 16 papers I received from municipal area council in Abuja that they served me in my office for different taxes and different levies to be paid. No business will ever exist like that with that kind of with those kind of taxes. So this harmonization of taxes has come at the right time when people are going to have some respite, so that an average person doing business anywhere in Nigeria will have to know the kind of taxes, the names of the taxes he is made to pay. Many Nigerians don't know the taxes that our levies are supposed to be paying. All they will see is that that paper will quote certain laws that you don't even have or know about. So we need to know what these things are, and it has to be the same all over the country, so that we know that we have these taxes to be paid. So we expect that when this committee comes up with their full implementation paper, Nigerians should be able to have some respite.
Well, if I get you correctly, Dr. Ikechukwu, you're talking about advocacy, more like sensitization, to educate the populace to understand their rights and obligations, you know, as taxpayers. Of course, we know that tax are a powerful tool to bridge financial gaps. Now, I like the fact that you mentioned that at the municipal areas, before you get to that down level, you have to start from the state level also. So what role can states also play, you know, in educating the citizens who are the taxpayers to understand their rights, their obligations, and also contribute to government's effort to remove the burden?
First of all, the education will have to start from, well, we're talking about the states and the federal harmonizing. And when the states have agreed on the taxes that are allowable in their various states, they will have to drill it down to the municipal area council or local government areas, as it is called in some states. And so it's in the position of the governor or the minister of FCT to say these are the taxes that are allowed in this FCT. And every Nigerian will know. And once these taxes and levies are known, then the next thing is just the implementation, and of course the information that will have to spread to Nigerians. Every Nigerian needs to know what taxes he's supposed to pay, because many of them we are hearing them for the first time. Some of them are so funny. If they even mention their names, you wonder, how is this part of law that people have to pay this? So we need to, once these things are known, Nigerians have to also have the right to know which taxes they are supposed to pay, as the case may be. So that communication and information will have to pass around the whole business people of Nigeria. This has been a major bane, actually. So I'm so happy that this is coming now, and we're expecting that the solution will just come as soon as all these things are implemented.
Yes, and one other critical challenge is the issue of high prevalence of tax evasion. Now, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, decried that the 10.8% you mentioned, it's very poor because Nigerians don't pay their tax, which is quite unfortunate. Now, stakeholders have a very crucial role to play. If Nigeria must meet its target of 18% by, in the next 3 years, surpassing 16.5% of Africa's ratio. So how can, stakeholders also contribute to support government's effort and reduce this burden of, tax evasion we get to see all the time?
What we don't have is enough database. We don't have enough database in the country so far to be able to track what inflow or outflow every single person is having. A lot of tax evasion is taking place, that I believe, and that I know, and we agree. But we need to deploy a lot of technology into this, to the extent that no matter what you do, you cannot miss the eye of that technology that's going to look at all the movement of funds and all the income and revenues that people are making. Many times they circumvent these payments by making sure their payments don't pass through corporate accounts where they won't pay CIT and things like that. And so the technology should be able to track any of the movements of these inflows and outflows and revenues and profits made, to be able to know who's supposed to pay what. And it shouldn't be what you declare. It should be what the system, the technology sees that you are supposed to pay.
Yeah.
So we need to see how countries who have done it well have survived, have done it and done it well. So maybe some kind of looking into some countries that have very high tax revenue force, and to know how they've been able to achieve that.
Okay.
And so that's what we need to do.
Well, it's good that the drive is also to push for this digitization. If you're looking at assessing, monitoring, collection, and all of that.
Yeah.
We'll pick up with the conversation. Let's take a break. Tax reform is a fundamental fiscal policy strategy designed to enhance the tax administration. Well, the conversation is tax reform implementation 1 year after. Dr. Ikechukwu, I'm sure you saw that report from Kano there. If we want to look at, the role of states, what kind of practices, should be adopted to deepen this tax reform? Because it's one thing to have the impact of the tax reform, and it's another thing to ensure compliance.
An average government of every state will obviously want to optimize collections. On their own, they want to collect as much as they can get from people in order to fund their budget and their expenditure. And so, in the process of doing that, it should not be such that the people within that particular state will have to suffer tremendously losses. We heard a man from Kano complaining about the kind of taxes they are paying in Kano, and at the end of the day, the cost will be spread around ultimate consumers. And so consumers like you and I will always pay the fees, we face the challenges of these high taxes. And so we need to ensure that even when we are having revenue drive, we need to be sure that they are not affecting the standard of living, or creating so much hardship in various states of the federation. Because as we talk about what is going on in the federal, we're also having Nigerians all over the states, and in fact in local government areas, doing businesses and living. So it is important that this particular drive from the federal government has to be dovetailed to the states, so that all of them will come together in one room to say, we have agreed that this is what we're going to pay and we're going to charge. And so we don't expect that some states will be charging more than some other states, so that Nigerians will know at the time what fees and what taxes they're supposed to be paying. And so that will be a common knowledge to every Nigerian.
All right, and Dr. Ikechukwu, of course, we know it's not up to a year when the committee, the presidential committee was set up. It was just towards the end of last year. So it's a gradual process.
Yeah.
But let's bring in a report. All right, Dr. Ikechukwu, indeed, no pain, no gain, especially at a critical time. Government is looking at ways, to leverage on domestic resource mobilization from taxes. It is also crucial to boost taxpayers' confidence. What would be your recommendations, to encourage taxpayers, citizens, to have confidence in the system again?
When people are checked or examined for the possible tax they are supposed to pay, it has to be that which has to be fair. Many times when you receive any letter from tax people, tax institutions to say they are coming to your place, whether state or federal, the next thing that comes to your mind is that you are in trouble and you are going to cough out a lot of money. And so it has to be that exercise that people should be able to know that, okay, the essence of this exercise is to come and help your business and to actually help government also take a little from what you are making, because the more you make money, the more government will make money from you. If you don't make money, government will not make money. So people should just know that this is just about contributing to the growth, economic growth of the country. And like you mentioned, we need to sensitize Nigerians to this extent. Somebody also mentioned that when Nigerians know what the monies are used for, they will be happy paying. And that's actually what the idea is all over the country, all over the world, sorry. When people know what monies are collected for, and they see the thing clearly, they will be happy paying. So we need to have advocacy, we need to sensitize Nigerians, and so when it comes to paying, they will pay and expect that government will indeed utilize what they have said they are going to use it for. And again, while we're doing the reform should also work towards reducing some kind of malpractices within that sector, because a lot of people think there's a lot of shady things around the tax payment areas, and so Nigerians need to know that corruption needs to completely be removed from that area, so that there'll be clear areas. People will have to see how much is collected and how much is being deployed by government. I think that way the confidence of Nigerians will come back.
Dr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, of course, is a collective responsibility. Just as citizens understand their rights, it is their right to pay tax, just as it is their right to ask what their taxes are being used for. Well, let's put our hands together and support the government. Thank you very much for your time. He is a financial and investment expert. We'll go on a break.